Have you ever been called too quiet? Not because you had nothing to say, but because no one ever really tried to listen. And over time, you stopped trying altogether, and silence slowly became your identity rather than just a moment. Maybe you were the child who sat at the back of the classroom, observing everything, understanding more than people realized, but rarely speaking unless absolutely necessary. And now, as an adult, you're still carrying that same quiet energy, that same invisible presence, and sometimes even that same loneliness. But here's the truth most people don't understand. Being the quiet child doesn't just shape your childhood, it rewires your entire psychology. Being the quiet child is often misunderstood because people assume silence equals shyness, or lack of confidence, or even lack of intelligence. But in reality, quiet children are often the most observant, the most emotionally aware, and sometimes the most overwhelmed individuals in the room. They learn early on that speaking up doesn't always bring understanding. Sometimes it brings judgment, interruption, or even rejection. And so instead of expressing freely, they begin filtering every word, analyzing every reaction, and slowly building an internal world that feels safer than the external one. Over time, silence becomes a strategy, not a weakness. Quiet children grow into adults who notice everything: the tone in someone's voice, the shift in body language, the tension behind a smile. Because when you don't speak much, your brain compensates by observing more. You learn to read people, not from textbooks, but from survival, because understanding others becomes your way of navigating the world safely. But this comes with a hidden cost. You become hyper-aware, sometimes even overthinking situations that others would ignore. Before speaking, quiet children often rehearse conversations in their mind, again and again, because somewhere along the way, they learned that saying the wrong thing could lead to embarrassment, rejection, or being misunderstood. So instead of speaking freely, they analyze: is this the right moment? Will this sound stupid? Will they even care? And by the time they decide, the moment has already passed. Quiet children often grow up without fully expressing their emotions, not because they don't feel deeply, but because they were never given the space to express those feelings safely. So instead of saying, "I am hurt," they stay silent. Instead of saying, "I need help," they deal with it alone. And over time, emotions don't disappear. They just get buried deeper, sometimes turning into anxiety, loneliness, or emotional exhaustion. Quiet individuals don't usually crave large social circles. Instead, they prefer a few meaningful connections, people who truly understand them without needing constant explanation. Because when you have spent your life feeling unseen, you don't want attention, you want understanding. And once they trust someone, they become incredibly loyal, deeply caring, and emotionally present in ways that many people are not. When you grow up being overlooked, interrupted, or labeled as the quiet one, it slowly shapes how you see yourself. You begin to wonder, am I not interesting enough? Do people not value what I say? Is my voice even important? And these questions don't always disappear with age. They quietly follow you into adulthood, affecting relationships, confidence, and even career choices. But here's what the world often gets wrong. Being quiet is not a weakness. It's a different kind of strength. Quiet people are thinkers, listeners, observers, creators. They don't seek attention, but when they speak, their words carry weight. And the same silence that once protected them can become the space where they grow, reflect, and build a deeper understanding of themselves and the world. So if you were the quiet child, understand this. You were never invisible. You were simply observing a world that wasn't ready to understand you yet. And maybe, just maybe, your silence was not holding you back. It was preparing you. If this video resonates with you, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who has always been the quiet one. Because sometimes, the quietest people have the most important stories to tell. And if you've ever been called quiet, maybe it's time to ask, were you really quiet? Or were you just unheard?